There is a blue box on the second shelf of every pharmacy in this country. Sometimes it is green. Sometimes it is white with blue letters. It costs somewhere between $8 and $15, depending on the brand and the size. On the front it says pain relief in letters big enough to read from across the aisle. Below that, a picture of a knee, always a knee, sometimes a shoulder, but mostly a knee. Behind that box there is another one, $22, that says maximum strength. Behind that one, a roll of patches, $18 for 14 patches. You stick them on, feel some heat or some cold, and 4 hours later the ache is back and you reach for another one. And behind the patches there is a cream in a tube, $16. Next to it, another cream, $19, that says deep penetrating. They all say deep penetrating. Every single one of them says it goes deep. And you want to believe it because the ache you feel is deep. It is not sitting on the skin. It is somewhere underneath, somewhere you cannot reach with your hands, somewhere that hums all day and screams at 3 a.m. when you turn over in bed. I understand why you buy it. When the knees hurt, when they ache so deep it feels like the bones themselves are tired, you want something now. You want to open a box, peel a wrapper, stick something on, and feel it go quiet. I understand that. I have lived with these knees for 80 years. I know what it is to stand up from a chair and have to wait a second before your legs agree to move. I know what it is to look at a set of stairs and do the math in your head before you take the first step. But here is the question. Nobody standing in that aisle ever stops to ask, what did the people before us use when that shelf did not exist, when that pharmacy did not exist, when the closest doctor was a day away and cost more than you made in a month? What did those people put on their knees? And how did they keep working, keep farming, keep raising children, keep walking to church on Sunday with no box, no patch, no tube, no cream? That is what I am going to show you today. Now, before I go any further, let me be honest with you. That blue box on the shelf does what it says. It makes the skin feel warm or cold, and for a little while the ache quiets down. I am not telling you to throw it away. I am not telling you it is bad. Some folks find real comfort in it, and comfort matters. What I am telling you is that my generation had something else, something that cost almost nothing, something that was already in the kitchen. I am not a doctor, and I am not here to tell you what to do with your body. I am here to show you what was done in my kitchen, in my mama's kitchen, and in her mama's kitchen before that. What you do with it is yours. My name is Mitty. I am 80 years old. I grew up in rural Mississippi, where the nearest doctor was more than a day's ride and charged more than my family had. I raised 9 children, and not one of them, not one, grew up with a tube of store-bought rub in the house. What I am about to show you, I did not learn from any book. I learned it standing next to my grandmother in a kitchen with a wood stove and a dirt floor, watching her hands. Today, I am going to show you 3 poultices that my generation used when the knees ached, when they swelled up, when they cracked, going down the stairs, when they woke you up in the middle of the night for no reason you could name. Each one works different. Each one is for a different kind of ache. By the end, I will tell you when to use each one, when to switch between them, and when the store-bought version still has its place, because it does have its place. I am not here to pretend otherwise. The mustard poultice. This is the one my grandmother made me promise to pass on. Not suggest, not mention, promise. She held my hand and she said, "Baby, do not let this die with you," and I told her I would not. That was 50-something years ago. I am keeping that promise right now. She called it the mustard plaster, though she never used the word plaster with us children. She just said the mustard, as in, "Go get me the mustard, baby." And every child in that house knew she did not mean the yellow bottle for sandwiches. She meant the powder, the dry, brown, sharp-smelling powder she kept in a tin on the top shelf of the kitchen cabinet, behind the flour where little hands would not reach it. That tin had been there so long the label was gone. Just a silver tin with a dent on one side that she said was already there when her mother gave it to her. Her mother taught her, and I do not know who taught her mother before that. But I know this. By the time it got to me, it had already been working for longer than anyone in my family could remember. Nobody questioned it. Nobody needed to. You saw it work. That was enough. Here is how you make it. You need 2 things. Dry mustard powder, the kind you can buy in any spice aisle at any grocery store for about $2, and plain white flour. That is the entire list. 2 things. You mix 1 part mustard powder with 2 parts flour in a bowl. So if you use 1 tablespoon of mustard, you use 2 tablespoons of flour. If you want to cover both knees, double it. The flour is not there for thickness. The flour is there for control. The flour controls the heat. Pure mustard powder on the skin will burn you. I have seen it happen. I have had it happen to me once when I was young and impatient and thought I knew better than my grandmother. I did not know better. The flour slows the heat down, so it goes in steady instead of all at once. Add just enough warm water to make a paste. Not runny, not dry. Thick like pancake batter that holds its shape when you scoop it with a spoon. If it runs off the spoon, you added too much water. Add a little more flour. Spread the paste onto a clean cloth. A piece of old cotton pillowcase works fine. A thin dish towel works. A square of flannel if you have it. Do not put the paste directly on the skin. Never directly on the skin. Always on the cloth first. Fold the cloth over so the paste is inside, like a sandwich. Cloth on one side, paste in the middle, cloth on the other side. Then lay it flat on the knee, right over the spot that aches the most. Wrap a dry towel around the outside to hold it in place and keep the warmth in. Leave it on for 20 minutes, not longer. Not 25, because you think more is better. 20 minutes is enough. If the skin starts burning or turns very red before the 20 minutes, take it off immediately. The mustard is strong. It does not need permission, and it does not wait. Grandma used to say, "It does not need long because it does not waste time." That woman had a way of saying things. Now, why this works, and I am going to say it plain, no big words. The mustard powder, when it meets warm water, releases a kind of natural heat. Not the tingle you get from a store-bought patch. That is usually menthol, making the skin feel like something is happening. This is different. This is warmth that builds and pushes through the cloth, through the skin, and into the area underneath. What that warmth does is simple. It calls the blood. when the blood moves into a joint that has been stiff and cold and aching. The body wakes up in that spot. The stiffness starts to ease. The ache starts to quiet. Not because something from outside fixed it, because the body got what it needed to do its own work. My grandmother did not use those words. She just said, the mustard reminds the body what to do. And that was enough explanation for her. The result, honestly, most people feel the warmth within 5 minutes. By the time you take it off at 20 minutes, the knee feels looser than it has felt all day. Some people feel relief that lasts hours. Some people feel it the next morning. The stiffness when you first stand up is less than it was the day before. I will not promise you a miracle because I do not believe in promising what I cannot guarantee. But I will tell you this. My grandmother used this every winter, 3 or 4 times a week, from November through March. She worked that farm until she was 87. Her knees carried her the whole way. I cannot say the mustard is the reason, but I cannot say it is not. The store charges you $12 to $15 a month for patches and creams. One application of this costs about 40 cents. That is the difference if you are still here with me. Good. Stay. What is coming next is the part that took me the longest to learn. And if this is helping you, tell me in the comments. The cabbage leaf wrap. Now this one, I know how it sounds. I know. When I tell people to put a cabbage leaf on their knee, I see the look. I have been seeing that look for decades. It is the same look my children gave me. It is the same look I gave my mama the first time she said it. Cabbage on the knee. It sounds like something a crazy old woman would say. Well, maybe I am a crazy old woman, but this crazy old woman's knees still work. Mama did not call it a poultice. She did not call it a remedy. She called it the leaf. That is it. Put the leaf on it. She would take one large outer leaf from a head of green cabbage, the big, dark, curled ones on the outside that most people peel off and throw in the trash without thinking, and she would do something to it. She would take her rolling pin, the same one she used for biscuits, and she would roll it over the leaf on the counter, pressing hard back and forth until you could hear the veins in the leaf cracking, until the leaf was bruised and softened and starting to release its juice. The smell would come up, that sharp, bitter, green smell that cabbage has when you break it open. Not cooked cabbage smell, fresh, raw, alive. Then she would warm it, just barely. Not cook it, not wilt it, just warm. She would hold it over the stove for a few seconds. We had a wood stove, but you can hold it over any low flame, or set it on top of a warm pot lid for a minute, until the leaf was warm to the touch, warm like bath water, not hot. She would lay that warm bruised leaf directly on the knee, and this one goes straight on the skin, not like the mustard, and wrap it with a strip of cloth. She used strips torn from old flour sacks, but any cotton bandage works, any strip of soft fabric you can tie. Wrap it firm, but not tight. You want the leaf pressed against the skin, but you do not want to cut off anything. Leave it on overnight, all night. You go to sleep with cabbage on your knee, I know. I am going to be honest about 2 things. First, it does not smell wonderful by the morning. The leaf turns dark and limp and wet, and the smell is, well, it is used cabbage. It is not pleasant. Second, it does not look dignified. You are going to bed with a vegetable strapped to your leg. My husband had comments. I let him have his comments. Then his knee started bothering him. Guess what he asked for? He did not even use the word cabbage. He just looked at the head of cabbage on the counter and looked at me. That was the whole conversation. But here is what matters. The knee that was swollen the night before is less swollen in the morning. The knee that felt tight and would not bend past halfway bends a little further. The ache that was sharp is duller, not gone. I am not going to lie to you and say the ache disappears. It does not disappear. It quiets. It goes from shouting to whispering. And sometimes whispering is enough to get through the day. Why this works, and I am going to say it as plain as my mama said it to me. The leaf, when it is bruised and warmed, opens up. The juice from a cabbage leaf, and this is old knowledge, not something I made up, has a way of drawing out what the body is holding in. When a knee swells up, the body is holding something in that joint that is making it stiff and sore. The cabbage leaf works from the outside, pulling that something toward the surface, easing the pressure underneath. Mama used to say the leaf does the listening, that the body forgot to do. That is how she explained it. I never had a better explanation, and I never needed one. A head of cabbage costs about $1.50. One head gives you 7 or 8 leaves, enough for over a week of overnight wraps. The store sells knee braces for $20 to $40 that hold the knee still, but do not do what one cabbage leaf does while you sleep. That is the difference. Before I go on, if you know somebody who needs to hear this, share it with them. That is how this knowledge got to me, hand to hand. Kitchen to kitchen. It was never written in a book. It was told to a daughter by a mother who was told by her mother. Every time somebody shares it, the chain gets a little longer. Every time somebody keeps it to themselves, it gets a little closer to breaking. The ginger root compress. This one my mama did not teach me. The old woman down the road taught me, Miss Arlene. She lived alone in a shotgun house with a garden bigger than most people's yards, and a way of looking at you that made you feel like she already knew what you were going to say. She was already old when I was young, which means she carried knowledge from a time I cannot even imagine. She did not talk much, but when she did talk, you stopped what you were doing and you listened, because everything that came out of her mouth had been tested by more years than you had been alive. Miss Arlene used ginger for everything. I mean everything. If it ached, ginger. If it swelled, ginger. If it was stiff in the morning, ginger. If the weather changed and the body could feel it before the sky showed it, ginger. She used to say, and I need to stop here for a second because this part has stayed with me for over 60 years. She used to say, the root knows where the hurt is. You just have to get it close enough. I did not understand that when I was young. I thought it was just something old people said. Now I am old people, and I understand it. Here is what she taught me. Take a piece of fresh ginger root, about the size of your thumb. Maybe a little bigger if your knees are big. You can find this in any grocery store, usually near the produce, near the garlic and the onions. It costs less than $1. Most times it costs about 50 to 75 cents for the piece you need. Grate it on a regular kitchen grater, the fine side, the one with the small holes, into a bowl. You want about 2 tablespoons of grated ginger, maybe 3 if you want it stronger. Your kitchen will start to smell. That sharp, clean, warm smell that ginger has, like the earth woke up. Boil 2 cups of water, Plain water. Pour the boiling water over the grated ginger in the bowl. Let it sit for 10 minutes. Do not rush it. The water will turn pale yellow, almost gold, and the smell will fill the room. After 10 minutes, the water has pulled what it needs from the ginger. Take a clean washcloth, cotton, not too thick. Dip it into the ginger water. It will be hot. Let it cool just enough that you can wring it out without burning your hands. Wring it so it is not dripping, but still very wet and very warm. Lay it flat on the knee. Cover it with a dry towel to hold the heat in. When the cloth cools down to about 10 minutes, dip it again, wring it again, lay it again. Do this 3 times, 3 rounds. About 30 minutes total. That is the whole method. Why this works plain. Ginger carries warmth, not surface warmth, the kind of warmth that keeps building for minutes after you feel the first wave of it. When you soak a cloth in ginger water and lay it on a knee that has been aching, the warmth pushes in and the blood follows it. Wherever the blood goes, the body wakes up. The stiffness starts to let go. The ache starts to back off. And because ginger water holds its heat longer than plain water, the warmth has time to reach deep before it fades. 3 rounds of that, and the knee has had 30 minutes of steady, deep warmth reaching into a place that a surface patch never touches. The result, honestly, after 3 rounds, the knee feels warm from the inside, not surface warm, deep warm, the kind of warm where you stand up and realize the ache is quieter than it was before you sat down. I will not tell you it erases everything. It does not. But it takes the edge off in a way that lasts longer than you expect. Some nights I do this and the relief carries into the next morning. Some nights it lasts a few hours. It depends on the day. It depends on the body. It depends on what you did that afternoon. I am giving you the honest version, not the sales pitch. Miss Arlene did this every single night for as long as I knew her. She lived well into her 90s. She walked to church every Sunday morning, 2 miles each way, in shoes that were older than some of the people sitting in the pews. I am not going to stand here and tell you the ginger's the reason she could do that. I do not know the reason, but I know she never stopped using it and she never stopped walking. Draw your own line there. A piece of ginger root costs about 75 cents. The store-bought creams and patches and wraps with heat packs inside run you $15 to $20 every 2 weeks. In a year, that is close to $400 spent on something you apply to the surface. The ginger 3 times a week for a year costs less than $40. That is the difference. If this is making sense to you, subscribe. Baby, I have so much more to tell you, and I do not want you to miss what is coming next. Now, I want to tell you something that not everybody will say. These 3 poultices, the mustard, the cabbage, the ginger, they are for knees that ache from years of living, from cold weather, from standing too long on hard floors, from carrying groceries and carrying children and carrying the weight of getting through the day. That is what they are for. That is what my generation used them for. And that is the honest scope of what I am showing you. If your knee is swollen so bad you cannot bend it at all, if it is hot to the touch and red and angry looking, if you fell and heard something pop, if the pain came on sudden and sharp and will not let up, that is not a poultice situation. That is a doctor situation. Go. Do not wait. Do not try to fix that with a cabbage leaf. I am not a doctor, never was, never claimed to be. What I am teaching you is what was passed down, not something written on a prescription pad. If your body is talking to you in a voice you have never heard before, listen to it and go see somebody who went to school for that. I mean it. But for the everyday ache, the one that greets you every morning when your feet hit the floor, the one that makes you hold the railing when you used to fly down those stairs, the one that sits with you all day like an uninvited guest who will not leave. What I showed you today has been working in kitchens like mine for longer than any pharmacy has been open. That is not opinion. That is history. Let me lay the numbers out one more time, plain and simple. The average person spending on store-bought rubs, creams, patches, and wraps for aching knees spends between $15 and $30 per month. That is $180 to $360 per year. Some people spend more. I have talked to people who spend $500 a year on things they rub on their knees, hoping the ache will stop. The mustard poultice costs about 40 cents per application. The cabbage leaf wrap costs about 20 cents. The ginger compress costs about 75 cents. If you used all three of them, rotated them every single week for a full year, your total cost would be under $60, compared to $360 or more at the store. That is not a small difference. That is $300 that stays in your pocket. $300 that does not go to a box on a shelf. That is a decision, not a detail. Here is what I want you to do. Not next month. Not someday. This week. If it is Monday and somebody in your house woke up with knees aching from the weekend, start with the mustard poultice today. It is the fastest one. 20 minutes and you will feel it. If it is Sunday night and you want to wake up Monday morning with knees that cooperate, put the cabbage leaf on before bed and let it do its work while you sleep. If you have been aching for days and days and nothing has been taking the edge off, try the ginger compress. 3 rounds, 30 minutes, every night for 5 nights straight. 5 nights, not 1. Give it the time it needs. Then come back here and tell me what happened. I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments which one of these 3 you are going to try first. I want to know. And if your mama or your grandmama had her own way of handling aching knees, her own poultice, her own leaf, her own root, her own compress, her own trick that she never wrote down and never told anyone outside the family, baby, share it, please. Write it down right here where everybody can see it. That kind of knowledge cannot die in somebody's memory. Every time one of those old methods disappears because nobody passed it on, the world gets a little more dependent on that shelf at the pharmacy. I read every single comment, every one, and I keep the ones that teach me something I did not know. Next time, I am going to show you what my mama kept in a jar on the back of the stove from November to March. A broth she made from bones, and 3 things she pulled from the garden before the first frost hit. She started it every year on the first cold morning, and it simmered on and off for months. I have been making it every winter for over 50 years, and almost nobody watching this channel knows what it really does for the body when the cold sets in deep. That is coming next. Subscribe so you do not miss it. What everybody calls getting old is not getting old. It is the body asking for something it used to get and stopped getting. The mustard, the leaf, the root, they do not fix the knee. They remind the body what it already knows how to do. You just have to know what to reach for. And now you do.